Hey, it's Hunt. You found Hunt on Saints. We're talking black and gold football. Do us a favor. Hit the like button, share your comments below, and hit that subscription button so you can get all of our content. Enjoy. We'll talk a little black and gold here. The story from Saints mandatory minicamp last week started centering around Marshawn Lattimore and whether or not he would show up. And he did. And then you've got minicamp, which is the underwear Olympics. Guys out there running around, no contact, not rushing the passer. There's not a ton that can be gleaned from the on-field stuff. We've talked about a little bit of it and heard some sound from it, but that's not really the story. And then the story became, at the end of minicamp, Alvin Kamara leaving the final day and his camp confirming that the situation is involving his contract, which has 2 years on it, technically, but the Saints are not going to pay him $25 million in 2025. Not a single dollar of that is guaranteed. So the thought is that basically this is the last year of his deal for all intents and purposes. So he's got a decision to make, and the Saints have a decision to make, and we can put some now actual dollar figures to it. Now keep in mind, as a base for this discussion, that Alvin Kamara has earned on the field more than $43 million in the NFL. That is to say nothing of how much he's made off the field. So he's made a lot of money. The question is, how much is he willing to pay back to the NFL in an effort to get more? And when I say that, I mean in fines. If Alvin Kamara decides not to show up for training camp, which starts at the end of next month, every day he is going to incur a mandatory fine that cannot be rescinded of $50,000. Now, the Saints have 21 days of camp practices scheduled. So you miss 21 times $50,000, you're talking about north of $1 million that Alvin Kamara would pay in fines in an effort to force the Saints' hands. And I just don't know if that's going to have a huge impact on the Saints. There's just not a huge market for running backs that are 28, 29, 30 years old, which is what you would be paying Kamara on. And last week we gave you the comp that the Kamara camp is going to give you with Christian McCaffrey, who just signed that mega deal, but they're just not apples to apples. They play the same position. Their styles are similar. One was the offensive MVP of the league last year, and the other one has been hurt and suspended and not as productive. And you can say it's because the Saints offense hasn't been as productive, or the Saints quarterback play hasn't been good, or the Saints offensive line isn't great. Well, guess what? The same quarterback's still there. The same offensive line is still there in the middle, and they're putting in some real questionable pieces on the outside. It's not like it's a whole new world. So the Saints have to do what's in their best interest. And it's not in their best interest to go, you know what? Christian McCaffrey did get a lot of money, and Alvin, you scored a ton of touchdowns back in like 2019, 2020. That was awesome. We should just extend this contract by a year and give you some more guaranteed money. That's just not the situation the Saints are in. So I just don't know if they're going to flinch. There was a point at some juncture over the last decade where sports franchises stopped paying players for what they have done and began to pay them based on what they expect them to do. It was sometime after Albert Pujols signed a bajillion-dollar deal to go be a geriatric with the Anaheim Angels. And everybody went, that's not a really good idea. And it's still not. So Alvin is going to have to determine how realistic he thinks it is if he comes to camp and holds out. How many $50,000 a day fines are you willing to eat? You want to just push it for 4 days, $200,000 down the drain, you'll still survive, but see if the Saints flinch? Or you just want to go, I've gotten $43 million from them. I'm going to get another one this year. Keep in mind, his game checks are only about $60,000. You're forfeiting $50,000 every day you're not there. So you're not making up for it real quick once you go play. It's just a sad reality. I'm not saying that I don't understand where Alvin Kamara comes from here, but it's a sad reality. Like, there's just not a lot of running backs at his age that are getting new deals. Yeah, Frank Gore did it forever, and Mark Ingram had a great run, and Christian McCaffrey just got paid, and you can point to some individuals' contracts around the league. And I'm not here to tell you that Alvin Kamara is completely done as an NFL football player. I just don't think he's the same player he was 5 years ago. The explosive plays have not been there. And the Saints are in a transition period where they're trying to reshuffle the books, and going right back to the stuff that put them in a compromised situation is not a great idea. So in my opinion, how this thing resolves itself, I think Alvin Kamara is going to be in camp pretty quick. I don't think the Saints are going to say, you know what, we'll sprinkle some more money on the back end of that contract, because that sprinkling is then again taking away from what the Saints can do with that money in 2025. And while they're not going to operate fully bailing on 2024, I, as an analyst talking about this team, am fully accepting of the fact that I don't think the 2024 Saints are going to be great, and I'm trying to get to the next great Saints team. And everything I do has to be geared towards getting to the next great Saints team. And paying Alvin Kamara a significant amount of money, $8-10 million in 2025, is not helping me get to the next great Saints team. It's just not. So I think everyone's going to come to that realization, and I think he's going to end up in camp, and I think he's going to play for this deal, and then I think his time with the Saints is going to be done. Now, if he comes out there in this new offense and sets the world on fire the first 9 weeks of the season, and the Saints want to sit down and go, okay, now we see this is what we want to do. We've got Clint Kubiak here. Derek Carr's more comfortable. He's going to be back next year, and you look really good in this. Then we'll talk about next year, because the situation will have changed. The situation is not going to change in August. It's not. It's not going to change if he holds out. It's not going to change if he has a couple of good practices or a good preseason game. It will change around Halloween or November if he's uber productive and the Saints feel like he can really help them for a good team next year.
Yeah, but that to me, it's like, do you really think that even if he does have a solid year, that's another added, that's just another year older that he is, closer to 30, and then it's like, okay, well, do we even though he had a great season, do we still want to pay him more to come back for at least another year?
It always depends on the price. If you can agree to a price, yes. If you can't, okay, then you void the contract after next year. You don't owe him that $25 million is not guaranteed. He can test the free agent waters if he wants to, and that may happen as well. But that's all next summer's issue, next spring's issue. It's just not going to be resolved in Southern California in this summer. I don't see that as a reasonable decision for the New Orleans Saints. And I think it's interesting that you're talking about a guy that could sit out for $50,000 a day. He's got money, but I just don't know how eager he's going to be to continually light that money on fire, trying to get the Saints to come to the table for a 28-year-old running back. I don't see it. So we'll see. Give us your thoughts in the comments below on the YouTube video. Hey, it's on. Thanks for watching Hunt on Saints. Before you leave, help us out a little bit. Hit that like button, leave your comments in the section below, and hit that subscribe button so you get all our content right here from Hunt on Saints. We'll see you next time.